What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I've got these beautiful homemade buttermilk biscuits straight from my cookbook. I'm gonna show you how I did it here on video, but gotta let you guys know that in my cookbook it actually says all-purpose flour. At least on the first print. The next print will say self-rising flour. It was kind of a big debate that we had back and forth. You'll see why throughout this video, but ultimately we came to changing it to self-rising flour. So if you make these biscuits, please use self-rising flour if you follow that recipe. Let's get cracking like it. Get your oven heated up to 425 degrees. Okay, so I'm doing half of the amount of the version that's in my cookbook. Right here, I'm doing 1 compacted cup of self-rising flour, and I'm putting it in this measuring cup right here. And then next, I will do 1/4 compacted cup of self-rising flour in the measuring cup. From there, I add this flour to a mixing bowl, then 1/2 tablespoon of sugar, 1/2 tablespoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. So the debate was that baking soda and baking powder could get the job done with all-purpose flour, but I just find they come out better with self-rising. From here, I will grate 1 stick of cold butter into the flour. Now in the cookbook, I say you should freeze the butter, and you can. It does help grate the butter, but it works just fine coming out the fridge. And I made sure I wash my hands too, just in case anybody wonders. From here, I gently fold in the flour into the butter. You want to do this so the flour can kind of coat the grated pieces of butter. You do this so that the butter is not all stuck together in one big lump. As you can see, it's starting to look nice and crumbly now. I went ahead and picked it up, show you guys. None of the butter is sticking together. So here I have 3/4 cup of buttermilk. But let me tell you, this recipe works with whole milk. If you want to just get whole milk and do this recipe, it will work. I add just a tiny amount, and then I turn the mixer to a low setting. I'm using the dough kneading attachment here, and I'm letting the mixer just gradually move the flour mix around and slowly clump together. And as it does so, I add a little bit more buttermilk at a time. So I continue to repeat this process, adding in a little bit more buttermilk, letting the dough kneader mix around and gradually clump up the biscuit mix. Eventually, I will add every bit of this buttermilk to the bowl and let it continue to mix for a little bit. But then I do have to turn it off at a certain point so that I can use this little scraper here to kind of mix in some of that dry flour with the wet flour, just to help the dough kneader a little bit. I may have to repeat this process a couple times, but eventually it starts coming together, and as you'll see, the dough really starts to clump together. So I've now turned the mixer off, and I'm just kind of spreading it around a little bit, making sure we got all the dry stuff up, and toss it over a few times, and as you will see, that is biscuit dough right there, ladies and gentlemen. So over a clean surface on my counter, I'm spreading out some of this flour, and then I will drop the biscuit dough down onto this flour. The purpose of dropping the flour onto the surface is so that the dough doesn't stick to the surface. So I kind of flip it on both sides here just to make sure this dough gets a nice little dry coating of flour. From here, I take a rolling pin that has been dusted with a little bit of flour and kind of roll it out into a shape where I can fold it twice. I want to be able to fold it over 2 times. So I'm going, somewhat rectangle-ish, I should say, type of shape here. And I've just rolled it out kind of about 1/2 inch. And then I will fold it once, flatten it out a little bit, and then fold it twice. And now I'm going to repeat this process, but I'm going to get a little bit more of this flour on the sides of the dough, because when you roll it out like that, some of the wetter dough starts to kind of protrude from the dough. And then I start rolling it again into somewhat of a shape where I can fold it. And as you can see right here, because I didn't put enough flour, the dough did stick to the counter a little bit. So you got to be cautious of that. But I fold it over twice once again, and I realize, there's not as much flour on my surface anymore. So I spread it around and then even dust a little bit. Feel free to grab a little bit more flour and throw some on your counter. And then I will roll this out again to about 3/4 of an inch in thickness. 3/4 to about an inch is really where you want to be in biscuits. It helps them rise and come out great. So here I was trying to show you guys that this was a biscuit cutter for about 2.5 inches. I did a poor job of showing you, but it is 2.5 inches. From there, I just press down and shake them, and there you go. There's your biscuit. Looks pretty. I'd probably go a little thicker next time, but they still come out really good like this. And I just keep cutting them from here. So when you're left with a bunch of broken pieces like this, What I like to do is just kind of compact them together, flatten it out a little bit, and then I will fold it over once and fold it over twice. So that way all this dough can kind of come back together and I can make another nicely shaped biscuit. I roll it out a little bit again just to get it to the consistency I'm looking for. And then I take my biscuit cutter, press it down, give it a shake. Bam, got you another biscuit. Now for this last one here, I probably could have cut out 2 smaller ones, but I was like, well, I'm just going to fold it in, press it down, and make one big biscuit. And that'll work. So now I've added all these biscuits to a baking sheet that's been sprayed with a non-cooking spray. Now I left this part in here because there's so many people that say, I don't want to do homemade biscuits. It makes such a mess. Now look, anytime you're cooking something homemade, you're going to make a mess. But as you guys can see right here, this didn't take long at all. I just get a wet towel and I just start kind of wiping it all in one area, clump it up, and then I fold the towel over and wipe the surface down. And bam, I am cleaned up, ready to go. Happy wife, happy life. All right, guys, so I melted some butter and I'm lathering over the top of these biscuits here. You don't really have to do this. You know, it's just a little added layer of flavor. Maybe let them brown up a little more. But I've done it without doing this and they still come out really good. And there we go. So from here, I will get these bad boys in the oven. You'll want to let them cook for about 10 to 15 minutes. It's just going to depend on your oven. Just check on them. Once they're done, baby, they will look a little something like this. Woo, man. Nice golden deliciousness. Fluffy, flaky biscuits. Yes, indeed. I probably could have made 2 smaller biscuits for that one, but they'll still go down the same. Let's pop one of these open. All right, let's take a look here, shall we? I'm gonna pop this open there. Ooh. Look at that, man. That is pretty nice, fluffy, come apart, nice layered biscuit. Let's take a bite. Man, that is so good. Moist, buttery, even flaky. You can see the little flakes there. Now, you could go ahead and add some more butter to these, even some jelly, jam, however you get down. But just like this. I'm telling you, my wife and I, we could eat all of these. I'm sorry, I got a mouthful. So good. Well, all right, that is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Some homemade buttermilk biscuits. As I said before, I think it's crucial to use self-rising flour according to this recipe. Try it however you may, you do you. The other thing is too, you do not necessarily have to use buttermilk. I've done these before with whole milk. They come out great. They might even rise a little more with whole milk. So maybe try that out too. I know not everybody keeps buttermilk on hand, but nonetheless, these are really good. I mean, they will melt in your mouth. The bottom layer has a nice little crunch to it. You will really enjoy them. I think so. Other than that, I got nothing else for you. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Paya!